Good day, podcast community. I'm Pete Kane, Podcast Pete, co founder of Podcast Academy, with my friend Mark Little. And we're going to talk to you about the 3 tips why Podcasting Academy might be right for you. Because if you recognize the recent election, you saw that one candidate used podcasting, the other did not. That's usually evidence because of the money spent, the power of way to reach people. And podcasting is a way to reach people quickly and inexpensively. Because if you do podcasting, you create a digital asset. And I will just go over to this. If you want to book a podcast, be on a podcast, see if this is for you. You don't know, but check it out. You could be a guest. We'll create a digital asset for you. You'll see why that's important. You'll get to understand a little bit about the strategy that's involved with Podcast Academy and what we're doing with Mark. We use StreamYard, so we'll have a platform. We have everything for you. You just got to come to with a desire to make this want to work for the new way of doing things, because podcasting, even though there's a lot of podcasting, it's still the wild, wild west, and everybody's got to have a strategy. And I'm going to cover our strategy. But if you want to be a guest on the podcast, go to petekane.me. Let's go back to Podcast Academy. The 3 things are podcasting, publishing, and building thriving communities. Now, I'm going to put up here the podcasting link. So if you think this is something for you, go to petekane.me/PA for Podcasting Academy. You see, when you think about a podcast, think about creating a digital asset that it can be enjoyed anywhere around the world. When we say building thriving communities locally and globally, the globally is the digital part. The locally is the live events we do, the connecting, the way we do things locally is different than what we do globally. But on a podcast, if you can take your podcast like we do and create a published article in a magazine, we call our collaborative magazine. And if you want to know more about the collaborative magazine, you can just put /magazine, because that's the publishing part. Because if we publish your story in a magazine and you're surrounding yourself with your key strategic partners, your team of vendors, people that you have vented, that you've done business with over the years, that you know, like, and trust, you're bringing to the table of a prospect a team. You're not bringing just yourself. You're bringing a team. And when you can share a magazine with them and it has your team in there, then you're more valuable to that person, because they have needs that they need beyond you. And if you're venting them for them and you're bringing a team, like you say, like in BNI, they talk about referrals, all the different referrals, different in that the magazine becomes your asset that you're creating. So you don't need to go to a weekly meeting with BNI. You don't need to sit around and listen to the same people talk about the same thing every single week. You can do it more strategically, because your time is the most precious asset you have. So you got to be thinking leverage. How do I leverage my time? I leverage it with a podcast, because when I meet you, I'm going to search you. I'm going to see what Google says about you. And if I see content out there, I'm on the journey of know, like, and trust, because I have to consume 7 hours of you. There's a formula, 7-11-4. I've done many podcasts on it. And it means for people to know, like, and trust you, they got to consume 7 hours of you, Roger Dunbar. You can search that. And then they have to make 11 buying signals. And a buying signal is the 0 moment of truth made famous by Google. When people make 11 signals, meaning assessment could be a signal, reading your book could be a signal, doing different things that show an interest, meaning a need to know. I want to learn more about what that person's doing. When somebody is doing that, they're interested, rather than you just thinking everybody's interested in your whatever you do. They're not. They're not. So you don't need to spend 5 minutes throwing up on them in a metaphorical way. And I've seen it many, many times. What do? 5 minutes later, you're still talking and they're bored to death because they have no interest in what you're talking about. If you say, do you know how people lack a strategy of having leads? They go, yeah. What we do is we help people create leads, cash flow, and thriving communities. Now, if the person says, tell me more, that's a buying signal. If they say, oh, that's great, and they don't say anything more, they're not interested. So you don't need to keep asking, keep throwing up on them and talking about it because they're not interested in that. Got to know buying signals show people they're interested. You read a book by Daniel Priestley, and let's just say the book, I'm in the process of, I've listened to it about 8 times and I've read it numerous. I've done enough to know, like, and trust the guy. Never met him, but I use his strategy because when you see how it fits into what you're doing and he solves a problem for me, when I was in digital marketing business, what I couldn't stand is I drive leads to a business that was like driving leads to a burning building. They couldn't take care of them, so it didn't matter. Doesn't matter if you drive leads if you don't have the ability and the system set up to take care of those leads. Then you don't have a business. You're going to be out of business because the market will prove you. Market will expose you or promote you. And having podcasts gives people ability to get to know you. The more they get to know you, they begin to trust you and want to do business. So the publishing part is bringing your community to a person, a thriving community, and it's a magazine. You can go to pkme/magazine and you can read more. You can buy it from Amazon. It's up there. There's 32 people in it. It's just a sample. It's not an actual one that we implement, but I wanted to give you a sample of something. It's like you go to Costco, and you go to Costco for a reason. Value and be able to try out different products. Well, because the quantities are bigger, do you want to invest $10 in something you've never tried? A lot of times we don't. But if we try it, we like it, we buy it. So if you come on and be on our podcast and you discover you really like this and you like the strategy of publishing and building thriving communities and leveraging podcasts to create digital assets, and you want to think globally because people can do business with you across the world now because we're in a digital revolution. So if you want to be part of that, then maybe being in Podcast Academy will shorten it for you. So instead of 400 podcasts that I've done, and Mark has similar numbers, but he does them even more professionally than I do, you have the combination of shortening your learning curve, shortening your ability, because this year is the most important year of your life when it comes to your business. If you don't have a strategy going into this year, you're going to be left behind. So I always recommend, and I think I have it up here. I'll put it up here. Book a strategy session. You're not sure what you're doing and you want to book a strategy, come on my podcast. And let's see. Yes, there we go. Book a strategy session. You get an hour of me pouring into you to discover what strategy might make sense for you. Because if you're trying to do it by yourself, it's going to take you a lot longer. There's a lot of free stuff out there, but a coach is going to shorten your learning curve. It's going to give you more. So if you have more money than you do time, you need a coach. If you have a lot of time and you don't value your money, you don't need one. But it's an individual decision. But sometimes you will never know until you get around the philosophy of a high performance coach. That's number 3 on our masterclass. So when it comes to our masterclass, that's number 3. So you can understand our 10 steps. And part of the second step is the Podcast Academy, is podcasting, online courses, creating digital assets. So there's a lot going on. What do you do next? What's your path to success? Because you got to generate leads, you got to have cash flow, and you got to have a thriving community. So if those are things that you want, please go to be a guest on our podcast. And until then, part of the rocket fuel that we have for your business is Growth Day. That's the fuel to your rocket. If you want to attain the highest level, then Growth Day will give you 7 days for free. 7 days, Brendon Burchard, the founder of Growth Day, is going to speak to you. And you're going to do the 5 to Thrive. Takes about 15, 20 minutes. And that's the rocket for your day. I've been doing it for 11 months. What it has equipped me with is the mindset to set goals, to create good habits, because habits create outcomes. So if that's something you need some fuel in your rocket, and maybe you're not thinking, hey, I don't need podcasting. Okay, that's fine. It's not for everybody. But if it is, be a guest on the podcast. If it's not, at least get Growth Day, because everybody needs personal development. That's the 6th major trend, is personal development. If you're developing your leadership, you're having access to the community in Growth Day, you have Brendon Burchard speaking to you each day, giving you unique frameworks for you to be successful that day and beyond, your chances of succeeding go way up for a couple dollars a day. Couple dollars invested in you. And then if you do that and you want our free course, Mindset, Goals, and Habits, send me a support ticket at support@pkane.me, and we'll make sure you have access to it. So thank you. Look, I always say the magic is in you, and anything is possible. The magic is in you. And we always close, be bold, make a difference, and have fun. Be bold.